I'll also go back. Christine Dix. Vilma Mendoza. Hamilton Balon.
Here.
Janet Crocker. And then I see she's here. Maria Ibarra.
Here.
Thank you. Michelle Padilla.
Here.
Rachel Bloom.
Here.
Selena Navarez.
Here.
Thank you. Sue Eustace.
Here.
Veronica Medina.
Here.
And I'm just going to go back over a few. Angela Ringling.
Here.
Thank you. Shay Marshall.
Here.
Thank you. Christine Dix.
Here.
Thank you. And Vilma Mendoza. Okay, if she happens to log in, we'll update that, but that's roll call.
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez. And with that, we move to item C, which is Superintendent's welcome, and Dr. Triplett.
Thank you, Chairperson Martinez. Welcome committee and public, and also welcome staff. Thank you very much for being here this evening. As you know, this is the meeting where we will conclude the recommendation process and also to prepare the final report that will go to the school board in the upcoming month. As we begin, I know we have a lot of discussion ahead of us this evening, a lot of important dialogue. Before we begin, I just wanted to say three things. One is that I want to strongly encourage the committee to come to the decisions tonight with a couple things in mind. One being equity, and thinking about how are we making a decision this evening or making recommendations this evening that makes sure that we put forth the best interests of those students and families that have been farthest from opportunity. And so really thinking with those students in mind first and foremost, and prioritizing those in any decisions. Two, I did mention it last time, but I just want to reiterate that this committee really is a committee for the district rather than for a particular school. And so I know we all have a home school where that we inevitably are representing in some way. And at the same time, I really want to encourage the committee to, the individual committee members to come forward in the dialogue with the district students and families in mind, and not just those of one school. And lastly, I will say all of us, I just want to encourage us to think about what are the voices that are not in the room tonight, and how do we also represent them? So just keeping that in mind, that inevitably there's some voices that aren't here, and we definitely need to be thinking about them and making sure that we're making decisions with in their best interest. And with that, I will kick us off and turn it over to Chairperson Martinez.
Chairperson Martinez, if I may.
Yes.
Ms. Vilma Cristina just was able to log in, so can the records state that she is present?
Great, thank you so much. And with that, we move to item D, which is public comments. And Ms. Croce, you will be taking the lead on that. And again, as a reminder, this is a 20-minute section of our meeting. So we can have somebody, Ms. Gutierrez, time the 20 minutes, and then obviously each statement can be up to 3 minutes. Okay. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Croce.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Martinez. So Ms. Gutierrez, I've got the 20 minutes going. Before I begin, we did receive over 100 public comments again this week. So I will read for 20 minutes. I will not include student names. Any students that provided us with their comments, we assign them a student number. All comments in their entirety will be a part of the minutes. So with that, I will begin the public comments. So our first public comment comes from Lori and Abinab Ray. Hello, I want to write in support of keeping Lincoln Elementary open in regards to any proposed school closings in the district. We chose to purchase our home in Lincoln's district in 2015 because the location was close to the school that seemed to be performing well and getting recognition. Our daughter will be entering kindergarten in fall of 2021 and our son fall of 2023. So we have a great interest in the school remaining open as we live 1 block away. We want to support the public schools, and they cannot improve if children continue going to private schools, which is what we will have to choose if remaining public options end up being too far away. If the closure is due to COVID-related attendance registration drops, I'm more than willing to help lobby the state government for aid and to support the schools through this time, as I'm sure attendance will pick up once there is a vaccine and more stability. Thank you, Lori and Abinab Ray, Newark residents. Our next comment comes from Parkashit Kardnith. Hello. I heard that due to the budget reasons, a couple of schools in the Newark district will be closed. I'm writing to you to plead that Lincoln Elementary School not be closed, as it is one of the best schools in the Newark area. It's one of those schools which is improving and among the better Newark schools. Lincoln Elementary has a dedicated and quality staff and very easily accessible. It is also playing a major role in improving property values in Newark due to its high rank. While it is a hard decision to make and to choose one over the other, keeping the higher ranked school will benefit all of us and Newark in general. Please look into this and help us save Lincoln Elementary School. Thank you. Parkashit Kardnick, Newark resident. Our next comment comes from Sohin Saval. Hi, this email is regarding the close down of 2 schools next year. Lincoln Elementary School is a really significant part of our community here in Newark. It provides best-in-class education, very close to where we live, and it has been a key driver why we got a home close to the school. The staff members and teachers are friendly and dedicated to our community's growth. Closing down Lincoln Elementary School would be a big loss to the kids, teachers, and most importantly, it will slow down the development of the community in a significant way. I hope you consider my thoughts when you decide the future of our beloved neighborhood school. Thanks and regards, Sohin Salva. Our next comment comes from Tanvi Nayak. Hello. I heard that due to budget reasons, a couple of schools in the Newark district will be closed. I am writing to you to plead that Lincoln Elementary School not be closed. It is one of the best schools in the Newark area. It's one of those schools which is improving and among the better in Newark schools. Lincoln Elementary has a dedicated and quality staff and very easily accessible. It is also playing a major role in improving property values in Newark due to its high mark. While it is a hard decision to make and to choose one over the other, keeping the higher ranked school will benefit all of us in Newark in general. Please look into this and help us save the Lincoln Elementary School. Thank you. Tanvi Nayak, Newark resident. Our next comment comes from Maria Caro. I'm a mother of 2 students who currently attend Snow Elementary, 6th grade and kindergarten, as well as a wife whose husband's attended Snow Elementary. Snow is and has been a great school. I have had a great experience, probably one of the best, and I have no complaints. From the teachers and the staff, they are all nice, caring, and very helpful, not to mention the extra help that my oldest son had during his younger years at Snow. All the teachers, even though they didn't specialize in special needs, I felt like they understood me as a parent and made it so easy for me and my son. They were very welcoming from the beginning, and that made my son comfortable. They honestly helped him so much, I can't thank them enough. Please do not close Snow School Elementary. Thank you, Maria Caro. Our next comment comes from Veronica Mares. Hi, we need to have our Lincoln School open. We need it to have our kids with good teachers and education. Lincoln is our school. Please keep our school open. Thank you, Veronica Mares. Our next comment comes from Rayma. To the Newark Unified District Decision Board. Lincoln Elementary is an excellent school, and we should not consider closing it down. I'm shocked by hearing the news of Lincoln Elementary School being on the list of closure, it being one of the best ranked schools in Newark. I do not see a point in residing in this city and sending my child to a badly rated school, which private school is far away choice for me. One basic thing I would like to give my child is quality education, and I will not allow this great school to close down. I am sending my daughter to Lincoln Elementary, and she is at kindergarten level, and she will be disheartened to know that the school will be no more. I strictly discourage this decision and wish the board to not proceed in this direction. By closing other badly rated schools, everyone will be benefited by the good quality education in Lincoln Elementary. Closing Lincoln Elementary will force the house prices to fall and the whole community will be at loss, while other homes being included in the school zone will only improve their home ratings. I request the board to consider the residents' choice and let Lincoln do its magic to the kids on this neighborhood. As a resident of Newark and neighbor of Lincoln Elementary School, I was appalled when I came to know that elementary school is being considered for closure. My son had just started his kindergarten in this school, and the rating was a primary reason for us considering purchasing our home in this neighborhood. So in some ways, I feel this whole dialogue seems unfair and one-sided. Losing even one elementary school is no light matter. The schools are the bedrock of any community. I am hoping that the school district will find a method to keep all of them and have a more innovative and transparent methodology. Warm regards, Rayma. Our next comment comes from Alyssa Bauer. She is the lead early childhood special education teacher, and she signs her letter on behalf of paraeducators and special educators. Dear Consolidation Committee, as you prepare to make the decision of what schools to close, I thought it imperative that I make you aware of the impact the possible closing of music would have on our district's youngest learners. I have been a special day class teacher for Newark Unified School District since 2005 and have led the lead preschool teacher role for the preschool for the last 3 years. I worked with an amazing team and for a program that other districts sent their employees to observe when we were located at Whiteford Preschool. Then Newark Unified decided to close Whiteford Preschool and move it to music. Although I believe the district thought that they were making a financially and educationally appropriate decision, they were in no way prepared for the preschool's closure and were not prepared to house our program appropriately and effectively at another site. Music has done a lot to make room for us and to provide an environment for our beginning learners, but was in no way ready to support our program like the Whiteford site did. Teachers had to move classrooms, and money was put into providing more appropriate space for us. Each year it is getting a little better. I cannot imagine that closing music and moving our preschool program again would be any different or cost effective. In fact, I think it would be worse since other sites and classrooms would be involved, as well as our youngest learners would again be starting over in an environment that was not ready to support them. Things you should know about our program before deciding whether or not to relocate us. First of all, space needed. The preschool requires a minimum of 8 rooms, 4 classrooms, occupational therapy room, adapted physical education room, speech therapy room, psychologist office. It is important to note that the second half of the year, our numbers increase drastically, meaning more testing is needed for initial IEPs and testing needed for translation and transition IEPs, those transitioning to TK or kindergarten. This means we need even more space for contracted therapists to assist with our assessments. Since moving to music, we have had numerous issues with having enough space to complete testing services needed for our students in appropriate testing conditions. Contracted employees who the district spends a lot of money on don't have space to test and waste some of their time, our money.
That is time. That is time, Ms. Croce.
Thank you. So our next comment comes from Sarah Guerrera. Hello, I am writing to urge you to keep Lincoln School open. Lincoln has the highest rating of Newark schools on greatschools.org. And as you have seen from the provided data, it also has the most students transferring in and out of the immediate area because of the high ranking. This has a direct impact on whether and where parents decide to move into Newark, as it did for me. And to close the highest rated school would be a mistake when trying to increase enrollment. Please keep Lincoln open. On another note, I wish that the board would delay the vote about school closures since we are so close to the election. 4 board seats are up for election, and Proposition 15 looming as possible revenue that may help to increase revenues without having to close schools. I hope that the board will ultimately decides to delay the vote on the school closure due to these unknown factors. Thank you. Sarah Guerrera, Lincoln and Newark Junior High School parent. Our next comment comes from Angela Silvera. Hello, committee members. All 3 of my children go to Lincoln Elementary, and this site is one of community and growth. There is a spirit and joy at Lincoln that I have not seen at any other site I have visited or taught at before. Lincoln is a school that people from all over the district have asked to transfer to, and the test scores, when there are test scores, compete with the best schools around the Bay. In fact, currently, Lincoln has the highest score of all the Newark elementary schools, according to greatschools.org. Lincoln is sought after and therefore should be off the proverbial chopping block. I love Lincoln, but more importantly, my kids love Lincoln, and we do not want it closed. Kind regards, Angela Silvera. Our next comment comes from Mary Alberts. Dear Consolidation Committee, my name is Mary Alberts, and I have been a speech language pathology assistant for Newark Unified School District for 15 years. Most of my years have been spent working with the preschool team. As you consider which schools to close, please remember that the preschoolers have specific requirements that must be met by the district. Whiteford was a perfect home for our preschoolers, and since moving to music Their needs have not been optimally met. If you were to close music and move the preschool program, the district would have to spend a lot of time and money again to get the site ready for our students. Minimum preschool requirements are at least 8 classrooms, 4 for students, 4 for specialists, speech, occupational therapy, adaptive PE, psychology. Bathrooms for each classroom with preschool-sized toilets and sinks at their height. Outdoor play equipment that is for 3 to 5-year-olds and ADA compliant. Please consider these requirements as you make your decision. On another note, I have worked at most elementary sites within Newark Unified School District. All have a hardworking staff and wonderful students, but Music Elementary has proved to be the most inclusive elementary school. Music enthusiastically embraced the preschooler students and our team into their family. The staff goes out of their way to greet and get to know our preschoolers. Accommodations are made for students when attending activities in the multi-purpose room, allowing them to join in whole school activities. For these and many other reasons, music is a school worth saving. Thank you, Mary Alberts. Our next comment comes from a student. Hi, my name is Student 1, and I am a first grader at Lincoln. Please don't close Lincoln. I love it, especially my teachers, Miss Alcott, Miss Laporte, Miss Liston. They make learning fun, so please don't close my school. From Student 1, age 6, almost age 7. Our next comment comes from Sabrina Dalton. Hello, I am writing on behalf of Music Elementary School for the second time. I cannot express my anger and hurt that music school would even be in consideration for consolidation. I've said this previously, and that the children and families of music should not suffer because the school district cannot control their budgets. This is outrageous, and music cannot be closed. Keep music open, if not only for the family, but for these children who have gone through enough this year. Sabrina Dalton. Our next comment comes from Jennifer Mitchell. To whom it may concern, please read this letter out loud at your next meeting. I understand the need for school closure on account of budget shortfall, although I wish we hadn't so poorly managed our funds to put us in these straits. My twins attend Lincoln Elementary in 3rd grade. We are zoned for Graham, but transferred to Lincoln at the start of kindergarten because we admired their balance of diversity. And when I toured the school, I was impressed by the quality of their teachers and principal. One of my twins is autistic. When he was starting school, his primary deficit was social. Now he has a strong social network, several close friends. If Lincoln was to close and my twins change schools, it could have a seriously disastrous effect on his social skills. Furthermore, I want to point out that Lincoln has high enrollment and a large student body compared to some other schools in the district. It seems to me that if you choose to close Lincoln, you will disrupt far more kids and families than you would if you closed the lowest enrollment schools. Lastly, Lincoln has a very strong parent fundraising committee called PALS, Parents and Lincoln Staff. We raise thousands each year for the benefit of the students and staff because we have a lot of pride and care in our schools, teachers, and staff. Please do not close Lincoln Elementary. Jennifer Mitchell. Our next comment comes from Michelle and Roy Pollock. To whom it may concern, my family has become aware that Newark Unified School District has voted to close 2 schools and that Lincoln Elementary could possibly be one of those. We are disappointed that any of the schools would be closed, as neighborhood schools are convenient for families, and being able to walk to and from provide health benefits for the children. As pertains to Lincoln specifically, it's a very successful school for the district, and dispersing successful teachers will have negative effects on the future success of students and overall performance of the district. On one more personal level, we love Lincoln. Our oldest has been there for 5 years, and we have been continually struck by the school spirit and sacrifice by the parents, teachers, and other staff at the school. And that concludes our 20 minutes of public comment. As I mentioned at the beginning, all comments will be published in the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Croce. With that, we move to item E, which is approval of the October 22nd, 2020 minutes. May I have a motion and a second to approve?
I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Hingham Waters. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Bailon. Okay, Ms. Gutierrez, if you can take the vote, please.
If everybody can please raise your Zoom hand to a yes vote. I will be going down the list, Ms. Croce. I have yes for Ms. Rachel Bloom, Shay Marshall, Michelle Padilla, Christine Dix, Maria Ibarra, Veronica Medina, Angela Ringline, Hamilton Bailon, Janet Crocker, Sue Eustace, Catherine Ingenwaters, Selena Navarez, and Vilma Mendoza. Thank you. If you could please take down your Zoom hand. And that was a yes from everybody. Unanimous.
Okay, thank you. So the motion carries. And with that, we move to item F, which is the committee recommendations section. Ms. Garcia, I believe you will be leading this discussion, and the addenda does note 45 minutes as a target time. I know that that is the target amount you'd like to spend on this section before going to the next items. I will try to kind of give you some guidance on time there, but of course I'll leave it to you and the rest of the committee members if we need to extend that time a bit more. Okay, so with that, Ms. Garcia.
Thank you, Chair Martinez. As Chair Martinez noted, and I mentioned when we had our last meeting, we have 2 meaty items to get through. And so we're trying to set a little bit of some time parameters so that we don't have to keep you over the 8 o'clock timeline. And so the first thing that we want to talk about is the proposed recommendation for the school board. I asked all of you over email between these 2 meetings if you had any additional pros and cons or considerations that you wanted the committee to take into consideration as it was determining, as each one of you is considering which schools you would like to recommend to the board. I want to make clear that my comment or recommendation over email regarding the 4 schools, I understand that nobody wants any schools to close. And my recommendation is not that you recommend to the board that you close 4 schools. The recommendation is that as you are providing your recommendation to the school board, that you provide them with the top 4 candidates for potential school closure. I make that recommendation because, as you can imagine, just like all of the data that you were looking at and considering, the Board of Education is going to be looking at all of this data, and they're also going to be looking at potential data and other points that are wider. They're going to be looking at fiscal, they're going to be looking at how students are going to be moving, and they have a lot of considerations on their plate as well. And so I believe that providing them with your top 4 schools, again, not recommending that 4 schools be closed, but providing the top 4 schools gives them that ability to look at not only the information that you've looked at, but any other considerations that are larger and district-wide and that the board needs to consider when it's making its recommendations. And so what I propose doing is we sent you a document that was a comparison, and I'm going to share that. And so what I did was take the rankings from each one of the schools. I have included the school name, the score ranking, and the weighted score. And then I tried to summarize for all of you what the criteria were that made the largest impact on the score that that particular school had received, so that you have that information and kind of can see at one glance what it was that really brought that particular school up to the 4. In addition, based on the pros and cons that all of you provided, I've added 2 columns for those pros and cons so that you as a committee can hear the considerations from all of the committee members that were part of this process and what they're going through in their minds. We asked that each committee member provide 1 additional comment. And some of you did that, and some of you had some other information that you wanted to provide. And so while the chart that you're looking at right now includes the totality of the comments that were provided in an effort to be fair to those who did just provide 1 succinct comment, and in the interest of time, I'm going to go through each one of these for the schools, read out the pros and the cons. For those that provided more than 1 pro or con, I'm going to read out the first one, again, to be fair to those that did just provide 1. And if the comment was one that was one idea, but it would just took a couple of sentences to explain it, I'm going to paraphrase it a bit so that you have that information as you're making your deliberation, okay? So I'm going to start with the first, which is Birch Grove Intermediate. They received a score of 20, a weighted score of 24. The criteria that brought it higher to the top were criteria 4. The 3 closest schools had enough capacity to meet their needs. They had the most criteria 5, the second most expensive needs based on facilities costs. Criteria 7, unique facilities. And so that you could see those that are listed there as we go through them. So on the pros, 1 comment that was received was there is poor traffic and ingress and egress at that school site. Another pro for closure for Birch Grove Intermediate was that it's the same concept. It has the worst pickup setup for the schools and a poor building layout, and the multi-purpose building hides the small office from the street. On the con sides against closure, 2 of the comments are almost in a similar vein. Because of the unique pairing of Birch Grove Intermediate and Birch Grove Primary, these families have already been upturned, and to close and merge the schools now would be difficult due to the size of those 2 schools. The third comment is also in that same vein. The fact that these schools recently were just divided, the community is supportive of that division, and to turn that all around now would be a detriment. The other comment against closure was it has the lowest weighted score of all the schools, and the grade span configuration is beneficial for those students, and it's a sister school to Birch Grove Primary that's further down on the list and that we'll talk about. Another con against, where there were too many houses coming that are going to need the schools to remain open in that area, and we don't want those students to go to private schools, and so it would be good to keep this one open. And the last con was the distance to that southeast border is the greatest in the city. And this is one of the 2 schools that actually provides service to those students in that southeast border area of the district. So I'm going to go to Graham Elementary School. It had a score of 20 and a weighted score of 36. These were the criteria that brought it to the top. There for you. The pros, it has the highest weighted score of all of the schools. Poor building layout. I think I double counted that one, my apologies. For Graham, it's the closest school to all the elementary school sites. And so if the kids had to be dispersed and had to walk, they have nearby schools that they can get to much more closely because of its central location. Another pro for closure is the school. It's the school with the fourth lowest enrollment and the third most expensive needs based on facilities costs. And this was a comment that I'll make here, and you'll notice it when we get down to snow. There were several people that noted that it would make sense to combine Graham and Snow into one school, given the capacity at Graham and the enrollment at both schools that can fit into one. There was only one con against closing Graham, and that was that the property is large. It has an excess permanent capacity that has the great opportunity for longevity compared to portable buildings at other school sites.
Ms. Garcia,
Yes.
if there's any way that you could zoom in and enlarge this image, I think some of the committee members will appreciate it. If not, we understand.
I can, yeah. Does that help? I'll
Can I
just-
ask a clarifying question?
Chair Martinez?
Sorry, was there a question?
Yeah, just a clarifying question about the rubric scores again. Just remind me, a higher score is one that would be more desirable to keep or less desirable to keep?
A higher score would be a school that would be more desirable to keep. It would be more likely to close the school. So it should be higher on the list for potential closure.
So with a weighted score that's higher?
Correct. A weighted score that's higher would put it higher on the list for potential closure. The same thing for the relative score. The higher the score, the higher on the list for potential closure.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I had my hand raised as well. This is Catherine. Just to clarify the double comment from Jan Crocker, I think the hidden office was Graham and not BGI. And do you want us to speak up if any of these comments are not, they're not matching the schools that we know?
Sorry, I would say yes,
Yeah.
if there's just
Something off.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Catherine, that was true. It was for Graham. It was not for.
Thanks, Jan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Ms. Crocker. I will delete that from there.
Appreciate that.
When we're looking at Kennedy, it had a relative score of 19, a weighted score of 34. These were the criteria that brought it to the top of the list. Again, brought it to a higher score, which would make it more likely to be recommended for closure. On the pro side, this is one of the most expensive schools with regards to, operations, which means that when you're looking at savings, it's one of the schools that would result in one of the higher savings for the district. That was the only pro for closing of this school. On the con side, this area has one of the higher property taxes, and so they wouldn't recommend closing the school, and there's the potential for property owners to be willing to put on or vote for a partial tax in order to help fund the school. They have great scores on the Great Schools website, and that brings in some consideration as to parents wanting their students to actually attend that school. Another con, the location is a prime location for the northeast corner of Newark, and so that's important. The most northeastern school, so it's the same general comments, and so it's needed in that area because that's the school at that furthest boundary for those students. And then The art room that they've created would need to be relocated elsewhere. And they do have a thriving art program, and it took a lot of fundraising to create that program and that room. So that should be taken into consideration. So the next one is Schilling. It had a score of 19, a weighted score of 34. Here's the criteria that brought it higher up on the list of potential schools for closure, the pros for the closure of this school. There was a lot of money that was spent on changing the wall-less classrooms in the original building. And I did want to check with you on that, Ms. Crocker, to make sure I had that in the right column for a pro versus con.
I think I had that in the con.
Okay.
I think I had that in the con.
No problem. So I'll look at that in the con. So then the only pro for Schilling was the most expensive needs for this school. On the con side, Ms. Crocker's, they did spend a lot of money on changing the wall-less classrooms in the original building. They're closest to the new housing growth and easy access to a major street. Same idea that the anticipated enrollment from the new housing developments could impact the school. The same comment on this. So a lot of you were thinking along the same lines, that there was a lot of new development that would be coming into this area that would provide more students for Schilling. And the last against comment was that the school houses a lot of the lower income families in the district, and a lot of these families do walk to school. And so this school and being able to walking distance from that school is easier for those families to be able to access that education there. Music Elementary School was a score of 19, a weighted score of 31. These are the criteria that brought it higher up on the list of potential closure. On the pro side for closure, the school has the lowest enrollment and the fourth most expensive needs of the facilities. And it makes sense location-wise potentially to combine that with Kennedy Elementary School. Again, it has the lowest enrollment. The boundary is small for this school campus, and it has one of the oldest buildings and is adjacent to the aging district offices. On the con side for reasons for potential closure, the school houses the special education facilities. And we had two comments to that vein, that relocating those special education programs, those preschool programs, would have an impact on those students and on the facilities. And they have an established preschool with appropriate facilities already on that campus. Snow Elementary School had a score of 19, a weighted score of 30. These are the criteria that brought it higher up on the list. On the pro side for closure, it has low enrollment. This is, as I mentioned before, under the Graham comments, we had a couple of people that felt that Snow could be combined with Graham and could all fit on the Graham campus. And so that could make one large or one consolidated campus for those students. And that's why they felt Snow would be one that could be closed. And that was generally the same comment from here. On the con side for against closure was the idea that if you look at the data that was provided, a lot of the students that are attending this school actually live within the boundaries of this school, which is not necessarily the case with all of the schools, at least to a higher proportion. And so that's something that should be taken into consideration when a lot of the students that live within the area are going to school within the area. Birch Grove Primary, the score of 18, a weighted score of 30. These are the criteria that brought it higher up on the list of possibilities for closure. The pros, the Hetchy easement shouldn't impact the school or shouldn't be seen as a con, because there's plenty of space for the buildings themselves, and the easement just provides for more play fields. And the other pro was that it runs right through the campus. And so it is an environmental factor that should be considered. So two sides of that same coin. On the con side, the distance from that southeast border is the second greatest in the city. And it's one of two schools that are servicing the students in that area. The grade span configuration, as we mentioned, along with Birch Grove Intermediate, those two are sister schools. Once again, the same comment that we had above for Birch Grove Intermediate. These schools were separated within the last several years, and it seems to be a beneficial program for these students, and it seems to be well regarded throughout the community. There was a comment regarding, again, the number of houses that might be coming or new homes that might be coming near the area, and that would need a closer school in order to educate those students. And then on the other side, against the easement of the Hetch Hetchy Aqueduct could limit the ability of the district to potentially dispose of this property in the future as far as value is concerned, and felt that that was something that should be taken into consideration. And then last, we have Lincoln. Lincoln has a score of 17, so the lowest score for the score, but a weighted score of 33. These are the criteria that brought it higher up on the list. The only pro closure comment was that the nearby schools could accommodate the current enrollment. On the against side, again, as we saw with Kennedy, they have a good score on the Great Schools website. And so that does say something about families' desire to be located or send their students to Lincoln Elementary School. This school has a thriving community and parent and student satisfaction. So that should be taken into consideration. Again, the idea that there are a lot of new housing developments coming into the community. And so we need the schools to remain open so that students aren't going to private schools. The possibility that Lincoln could partner with Schilling if there's any future decision to reconfigure some of the schools, like what happened with Birch Grove Intermediate and Birch Grove Primary. And lastly, their music program has been largely funded by PALS, and finding those funds if this program, if the school were closed and needing to move to another school might be more difficult. And so they have a very well-rounded arts program, and the committee member felt that that should be taken into consideration as well. So those are all of the comments that we received over email. I do want to give all of you the opportunity to provide any additional thoughts you might have before we switch over to the exercise of how we're going to try to narrow down which schools to recommend to the board. And so again, in the interest of time, I would ask that you be succinct, and we'll try to limit the comment period to about 10 or 15 minutes, just to make sure that we're not running too far over. So I would like to open it up if there are any committee members that have anything else they'd like to add in addition to what I read out just now.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Ms. Crocker, your hand was up. Did you mean to take it down? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Padilla?
Hi, I just had a question about the weighted score of the comment about the weighted score. And I believe the last meeting we had talked about BGI and BGP being, they would not be separated, right? Wasn't that the conclusion?
That was the vote, but since these were the scores, I certainly didn't want to arbitrarily or, unilaterally move that. But that was the vote that the committee took last week, was to not consolidate that program.
Okay, Ms. Ibarra?
Hi, everyone. I think I misunderstood your email. That's why you see those big chunks of writing. That was me. Sorry, guys. Um,
It's good information to have and for the board to have when they're making their decisions. So it's not.
Definitely. I mean, there were a couple of points, some points on Kennedy, some points on Snow, some points on Graham, different things like that. But for example, with Snow, since it is a school that I go to, and not because that's the school that my daughter goes to, but I mean, I happen to have more information on that. Looking at the amount of money that the district would save with each school if it were closed, it seems like Snow is actually like at the bottom. And just thinking of maybe staff that had to stay behind, it could actually potentially be less than $500,000 that the district would save, which puts us back at it has to be $500,000 per school. Just something to think about. There were other things on there, but in an effort to be concise, with Kennedy and Graham, and I know people are not gonna like what I'm about to say, but I'm trying to think of all the kids, right? All the kids, their morning routines, what their next year is going to be looking like. We heard people from music, from Snow, from Schilling, people that don't have cars, people that have to walk to school, people that don't have a way of getting a ride. That's just their life. You know, a lot of schools have railroad tracks close to them. And it seems to me like Kennedy doesn't necessarily have that issue. They're an area that is, we all know, and honestly, very blessed. It's the nicest area of Newark, arguably. Everybody wants to kind of be there. So I don't see that being an issue. I don't see the kids from Kennedy suffering, say, going to school in the rain, walking because they don't have any other option. I do see that in all the other schools. Also, all the other schools have, you know, a decent amount of low-income students, English learners, the kids that have the most needs. And again, Kennedy is at a 37%, which it could be English learners. I don't think many of those kids are low-income kids. I could totally be wrong. What do I know? But I don't know, it's just something to keep in mind that if they were able to pay for and fundraise for a beautiful art room, and if they were able to fundraise for so many things that they've been able to accomplish, I think that they would be a blessing at any school site. With regards to Graham, the comment was that,
but I'm just going to ask you if you could wrap it up, just because I want to make sure other. I'm so sorry.
sorry, I'm not good at wrapping up.
No, and I hear you. I think you're, you know, from a point of just equity, but if you can, that way just other folks have a chance to
I
wait.
get it. Sorry, guys. It is the closest school to everybody. Even if they did have to walk anywhere, they would have the chance to not have to walk far and suffer for a lot, you know. I think that it's a humongous school that's taking up a big chunk of money. So both Kennedy and Graham have over $600,000 in savings. That means that more staff can stay. That means that more people don't have to lose their jobs. I think if we can start thinking about that as well. I mean, there's my wrap up. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ms. Ibarra. Ms. Crocker?
Yes, thank you. When I looked at this whole business of what school to close, one of the most important factors to me is the physical appearance of the borders, combined with the main arterials in terms of, I think of Thornton as being the line. The bulk of Newark land is north, east, or west. I forget which it is because it's never straight north and south of Newark, but it's north towards Jarvis area of Thornton. And at that point, I see that we have a Kennedy area. We could go from Jarvis to Thornton. I see that we have a Snow or Graham area. They could go down to Thornton from Jarvis. And then I see we have a Lincoln area that probably could take part of the Schilling area. And then Schilling would be for the new area 2 housing. Then we have Birch Grove and Birch Grove primary and intermediate for south of Thornton. To me, it seems like it's the most logical approach. I mean, I love hearing people say that they love their school and they couldn't have better teachers anyplace else. And I think that's the way most of the people in Newark feel about their local school. The fact being that our income is less because our students are less and we cannot afford to support 8 facilities for primary level. And for me, the cleanest way would be to make those 3 corridors north of Thornton, Schilling to the west, and Birch Grove schools, the 2 schools south of Thornton. People are going to have to drive longer distance than they're used to now. And it's a sad thing. And I'm not sure how we can work out ways that, maybe we need to do busing. Don't know if that's an issue. And I know that's an expense, but maybe we need to be creative in terms of how we get the kids to the school. Because our schools are all built, with the exception of music is the oldest one. Most all the schools are built within a 5-year period of time. And so you will find that they probably are going to all sort of come down about the same time. So we worked hard to make sure that all schools are kept up to date. And so there's no one that's in really bad shape. So when I look at this, I look at trying to divide the city of Newark into 6 areas. And the 2 Birch Grove schools would be combining 2 areas together because of the configuration. But a Kennedy area, a Snow or Graham area, and a Lincoln area, and then a Schilling area. And for me, that seems to be the cleanest approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crocker. Ms. Vilma Mendoza.
Ms. Vilma, if you can just unmute yourself when you have a chance, or Mr. David, if you can please unmute her. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Vilma Mendoza, and good evening to everyone. And my daughter attends Graham School. And just like everyone else, I hate that any of the schools, just any schools closing. It's sad. But I also have seen that we have a big issue here. I live at a townhome property, and I've noticed there's a tremendous, more families are moving in with kids. But I'm also noticing that these families are sending their kids to private schools. And they don't want to send them to public schools, and they're looking at the scores. And that makes me sad because my daughter, she's in 6th grade now, but she's been at Graham since 1st grade. Kindergarten. And it's a great school. It's a Title I school. It receives funding. There's a program there, Think Together after school program too, that the kids are able to attend. And Graham has a lot of low-income families too. What's going to happen to all these families? They're very struggling during this pandemic. And then the families and the kids too with distance learning. And now we're going to put this burden on them, letting them know that, hey, your school is for closure. And you're going to have to go to another school. And you're going to have to make new friends. And, some of these families, they work very hard and they don't have a 9-to-5 job. They have some of these families have to work 2 jobs, and they rely on siblings. They rely on other people and babysitters taking their kids to school. So we got to take that into consideration as well. And Graham has improved their test scores. Since I've been there for 6 years, I noticed that it's changed a lot, and classes are improving. Tests or scores are going up, and our kids are excited about that because now they were recognized that, their scores are going up and they're doing a good job and they're working extra hard to make that happen. There's also the program Kirango that's at the school too. What's going to happen to that program? What's going to happen? Yes, go ahead.
If you can please, wrap up just because I'm watching the clock. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So I just, like one parent mentioned earlier, that our kids have been enough through this year. And I would really like if we could slow this down and, after elections, and we could change this if we all work together and attract those new families that are coming into Newark, because Newark is growing and it will suck to see schools closing. So that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Mendoza. Ms. Medina?
I think I might have not quite, I was taken by surprise when I heard the number of 4, making a recommendation of 4 schools. I wasn't really prepared to do that. it's been it's hard, and I know no one wants to see the schools close. But I felt a little bit like a curveball got thrown at me. And, you know, all I can say is that we really have to think about the equity here and what we're asking for all of our students, because this will definitely impact our community. And, you know, the school board is going to have a tough decision picking whatever schools and whatever they're going to do. And they have more information than I felt, maybe more insight into what needs to be done and what will be done with the empty schools afterward. Because I think that's a piece of the puzzle that we haven't discussed on this panel. They'll know better, or maybe they know, or we'll get information about what will happen with the empty schools. And that was just my two cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Medina. Ms. Selene Nevares.
Hi. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, my name is Selena Vargas, and I'm representing Schilling. And we don't want Schilling to close. We are, Schilling is a Title I school too, like Graham. We can combine Schilling and Lincoln. If one of the schools can be closed, can be Lincoln. Kennedy is a school that has, like says, a lot of people that has no low income.
I think we lost you, Ms. Navarez.
Okay.
Ms. Navarre, okay.
Thank you, Ms. Nevares. We may have lost her. Okay. So as we look at the time, Ms. Garcia, we're at about 30 minutes in.
Yep.
So I'll bring it back to you. I think there were no other raised hands.
Great. So if we were all in a room together, I'd hand all of you little, colored dots, and I'd have names up across the room. And I'd have you take your dots and put it on the schools that you, as individuals, based on all of the data that you have received, keeping all of everything that you've heard, Superintendent Triplett's message earlier about those considerations, in order for you as individuals to determine which, again, and we're looking at 4 schools, not for you to recommend that 4 be closed, but the top 4 schools that the school board could consider for closure. But since we are in a virtual environment, we're going to do this exercise. We're going to attempt to do this exercise virtually. And so you received an email from Ms. Croce asking you to have a piece of paper and a marker. And so what I'm asking you to do is to take a moment on that piece of paper and write your top 4 schools that you would recommend to the school board to consider for possible closure. We're going to share those pieces of paper, and Ms. Gutierrez and Ms. Croce are going to help, and we are going to count them off and look at which 4 schools rise to the top based on a majority. All right. So I'm going to give you a couple of moments.
Hang on one second. Ms. Crocker, did you have a quick question? I just saw your hand up. Sorry, Ms. Garcia.
No worries.
Yes, I'm concerned about putting a vote in for 4 schools that are equal. I think what Ms. Medina said was hit home with me too. I pretty well have figured out 2 schools that I think probably would be the most logical to close. I don't have 4, however, that are there. If we could weight it with 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 1 and 2, the first 2, and then the second 2, that would show a little differentiation in terms of voting.
So your recommendation would be for everybody to list their top 2 and then an additional 2?
Correct. So if you want to weight it 1 and 2, however you want to weight it, I don't care. just so we all have the same weight. If number one would be the two, you would give number one to two schools that would be the ones that you would want to be the first ones to consider to close. And then three, and then 2 and 2 would be the second group. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I appreciate that point of view. I guess my slight concern is, and this was why I was trying to broaden it from 4 schools. Just from the 2, recommending that these should be the 2 to close, and listing just the 4 instead, to provide that flexibility to the board, because they have a lot of considerations they have to look at. And so I would recommend that instead of you as a committee providing your weight as to which one should be first, second, third, or fourth, that you're providing that broader look at that. And I think that also when we're looking at and talking about the equity lens and that broader picture, provides for a fairer process and a fairer ability for the board to consider all of the considerations that they have.
Ms. Garcia, at this point, I just want to make sure that everybody has their paper made available handy. Okay, thank you.
So I'm just looking, I still see some people with their heads down. So I'll wait a second to make sure everybody's finished writing.
And just a reminder to for everybody, in order to be able to see this, if you do have a virtual background, please put the paper in front of your chest area so the virtual background doesn't cover it. And everybody, perfect, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Crocker. I will ask you to zoom in later, but not right now, just so we can all lift it up at the same time. If you can please put it down, thank you.
I'll go get it.
Or you can just get closer. And then Ms. Navarez, you will have to make your screen visible so we can know what your 4 selections will be.
Checking, it looks like everybody is looking up. Is anybody still writing? Miss Bloom just waved, so we'll give her another second.
I did see 2 hands that they still need more time. If you can please put your papers down so they can all go up at the same time, just so we can have a fair process. If anybody needs more time, please raise your hand. Ms. Garcia, I think we might be ready.
Raised her hand.
Oh, okay, thank you.
We'll give her another minute.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing. Your eyes start doing all kinds of things as you're trying to look at all the variants. Are you ready, Miss Medina? Okay, all right.
Okay, so just if I may add, everybody can try to put your paper as close as possible to the screen so we can see the names. Ms. Crocker, this is where I'm going to ask you to put it in front of you so that the virtual background. And everybody, please keep holding the schools, the paper up. As soon as I see everybody, Ms. Medina, if you can please put a little bit higher. Ms. Navarez, if you can please get a little bit closer. Okay, I will be, if you guys can please keep your papers up, I will be reading all the names. And Ms. Croce, are you ready to, for me to read these out for you?
She's shaking her head yes.
Yes,
Perfect,
thank you.
okay. Ms. Veronica Medina, I have Graham, Schilling, Snow, Kennedy, and I will repeat, Graham, Schilling, Snow, Kennedy. Ms. Sue Eustace, I have Graham, Music, Snow, a little bit higher, Lincoln. So did I say that again? Graham, okay, one more time, sorry, Ms. Eustace, I apologize. Graham, Music, Lincoln, Snow. Graham, Music, Lincoln, Snow, thank you. Okay, Michelle Padilla, I have Graham, Music, Snow, Lincoln. Graham, Music, Snow, Lincoln. Thank you, Ms. Padilla. Ms. Crocker?
Okay.
Okay, I have Graham, Music, Lincoln, Snow. I will repeat, Graham, Music, Lincoln, and Snow.
Thank you.
Got it, Ms. Croce? Okay, and Ms. Dix, I have Snow, Schilling, Graham, and the bottom, is it music? Okay, I will repeat, Snow, Schilling, Graham, music. Thank you. Okay, Shay Marshall. I have Graham, Kennedy, Lincoln, Snow. Once again, Graham, Kennedy, Lincoln, Snow. Okay, Mr. Hamilton Baylon. I have Graham, Music, Kennedy, Lincoln, and I will repeat, Graham, Music, Kennedy, and Lincoln. Okay, Ms. Catherine Ingham Waters, I have ready, I have Graham, Snow, Lincoln, Schilling. I repeat, Graham, Snow, Lincoln, Schilling. Okay, Maria Ibarra, I have Kennedy, Graham, Lincoln, and music. One more time, Kennedy, Graham, Lincoln, and music. Thank you. Ms. Bloom, your page, okay, thank you. I have Ms. Bloom, I have Snow, Graham, music, Kennedy. One more time, Snow, Graham, music, and Kennedy. Thank you. Selena Navarez, I have Kennedy, Kennedy, BGI, Snow, Lincoln. Once again, Kennedy, BGI, Snow, Lincoln. Thank you. Vilma Mendoza, I have Snow, Lincoln, music, Kennedy. Once again, Snow, Lincoln, music, Kennedy. Ms. Ringline, I see that you only have one school here. Ms. Garcia, can you provide any input?
My preference would be for 4. Again, Ms. Ringline, the idea is not that you are recommending 4 for closure. We're just trying to provide the board with some options since they have other considerations they have to look at.
I'm only voting 1.
Okay. Ms. Croce for Angela Ringline, I have Snow.
Thank you, Ms. Ringline.
Thank you, everybody.
So Ms. Croce, if you could let us know the top 4.
Yes, so the one with the most votes was Snow with 11 votes.
I'm sorry, Ms. Garcia, can we display make sure everybody's votes are correct?
Give me 1 second. I will do that one. Let me just get to that screen. So Ms. Croce, if you could give me a second to pull up your sheet. I apologize, Ms. Croce. Which one is that? What is the title of this sheet? You're on mute.
Yeah.
It's the school SCAC votes.
Oh, I do have that.
Tab-
Okay.
Tab number 2, school site voting.
Tab number. Okay. So give me 1 second. I will be sharing the screen. Okay. Does everybody see that? Thank you.
And maybe we can just confirm that I have all the votes correct. And then Ms. Garcia, you can take it from here.
Thank you. So it looks like, based on this count, we have Graham. So I'm going to do it in order just because I don't lose track. Snow, Graham, Lincoln, and Music. All right. So those are the top 4. Again, the recommendation would be to the board that the committee is recommending these top 4 schools or candidates for closure, as they are determining which schools to close. These are the committee's recommendation for the top 4 schools that they should consider. All right. So I think Ms. Gutierrez, if we can take that down just so we can see everyone. So I am requesting a motion and a second for the recommendation to the Board of Education for these top 4 schools that are the ones for the board to consider for closure.
So at this point, I'll repeat the motion. The motion going to the committee is that the recommendation from the School Consolidation Committee to the board will be for the school board to consider Graham, Lincoln, Music, and Snow. Before I take the vote, Ms. Dix, I did see your Zoom hand raised. Is it to vote or is it for a question?
No, I guess more for a comment. I'm just surprised. I am a Lincoln parent, but I guess I'm saying this on behalf of the whole district. I'm just surprised to see Lincoln on this top 4, mostly because, like it was referenced in a lot of public comment with the property values and getting more families into the district. A lot of families really do look at those scores, and Lincoln and Kennedy are at the very top. It just seems very backwards to me to close a school that's already functioning so well and is serving the community very well. I just wanted to say that before.
Thank you. And Chair Martinez, I do see 3 hands here. I don't know if they're for discussion.
Okay, let me go ahead and ask, actually. I did see that. Okay, so we did have a, you were calling for the motion. We don't have a motion yet, correct? So maybe very quickly, if these are clarification questions, Ms. Ingham Waters?
Yes, I'd just like to clarify, will the board be using this ranked list with Snow at 11, Graham at 10, Lincoln at 9, and Music are at 8, or is it just going to be those four with no numerical value?
Well, the board is going to have all of this information. The recommendation that would be written into the report would be that these are the 4 schools that the committee is putting forward, but that matrix, etc., would be part of the document that's going to be going to the board.
Then I would just like to share my concern with one of the committee members who didn't participate in the process of voting for 4. That wasn't really an option ahead of time. And so I would prefer that that committee member abstain from any voting versus just voting for one school.
Okay, that is a recommendation. And I will ask, how do the rest of the field, is there consensus with the rest of the committee members? Do you all agree that everybody should vote for 4?
I can take an actual raise of hand on this because it is consensus. So if committee members agree with Catherine Ingram Waters' recommendation, please raise your hand.
Is everybody clear on her recommendation, first of all? Because the number of votes obviously impact, right? So,
Right. So just to clarify, Snow has 11 votes and the board will have that information. They're ranked number 1 with 11 votes. And so even before that was totaled, I had an issue with coming up with 4 versus 3, 2, or 1 or 0. And all of the committee stuck to 4 as advised or as recommended. And so I just have a hard time with other committee members not doing that as well. And so my consideration is to vote for 4 or maybe abstain so that it's kind of an equal rating.
okay. Okay, so thank you for that. And so I will ask, looking kind of shaking of the heads and raising of the hands, do you all agree with the Ms. Ingham Waters? You'd like everybody to, to play by the rules, so to speak, the recommendation. So the question, Ms. Ringline, is would you like to add your additional votes or abstain at this point?
Well, I think it'd be appropriate for me to say vote no rather than just abstaining because I don't agree with sending 4 names forward.
I understand that, but we're going on majority and
Well, I understand what you're saying, but like, doesn't essentially it mean that I'm saying no on the recommendation rather than abstaining?
I'm sorry, Ms. Ringline, not necessarily, because there is a number tied to the list. So you still do have the option to vote no on the recommendation at the end. But it does, in regards to tally of the score, it would not give an accurate description.
Yeah, that's a good differentiation. Right now, it's if going through the process is voting, and the rest of the committee has spoken, which is they prefer for you, or they're asking that you vote for 4 or abstain. The second where you could vote no is in this vote that's coming up with it, just the final recommendation. So let's resolve the first one, which is we'll give you an opportunity to quickly identify 3 additional schools or abstain from this, and we'll take the point, we'll say the point away from Snow.
You can take the point away from Snow.
Okay, thank you. And so you will, so let the record show that Ms. Ringline abstained from the activity. Thank you, Ms. Ingham Waters, for raising your concern. And
Ms. Gutierrez, you were on mute when you were trying to talk.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Ringline. At this point, Chair Martinez, do you want me to show the spreadsheet again? It is just one. Okay, one second.
Yes, while you're doing that, we have 3 additional, and let's do quick questions here, because again, I am watching the clock and we are already running behind. So we do have Ms. Crocker.
I would like to bring up again the point that I feel that it would be informative if we all just voted for 2 to see if there's a difference. Because mathematically it does change it. It changes what kinds of options that are there and what it means. There are 2 of these that I would not have voted for closure, but I would have voted for closure of 1 of 2. In other words, it would be either one or the other. And so I think to say it 4 and they're all equal to me makes it appear that our recommendation is not what I would recommend. So I know I brought this up before, and if no one else agrees, then I will abide by the majority. But if somebody else agrees that if we took a vote of 2 to see whether there was any kind of consensus within that, and then presented to the board that this is what they voted if they had 2 choices, and if they had 4, this is what the vote was, and then let the board make the decision. Thank you.
Ms. Garcia, I'm going to look to you from a process perspective.
If I may, second, just to be clear, the numbers that were up on the chart there are going to be presented to the board. Is that right, Ms. Garcia?
Yes, they will be part of that document will be part of the report that's going to be provided to the board.
So in essence, Ms. Crocker, I believe what you're asking for is already going to be present in the fact that certain schools have more votes than others.
But you're talking about a ranking of the votes. All of the people that I voted for, all the schools I voted for were not equal. If I were to vote for two, there are two that I feel strongly should be the ones that would be closing. If the other two tag along and they get the same power in terms of my recommendation to the board. And that's what I'm objecting to. So
they don't, in essence, they don't have the same power since their numbers are different.
They do have the same power because they're saying within my range with how I would rank them as an individual. Yes.
Dr. Triplett or Brianna, there could be, and I don't know if this is something to consider, there could be individual commentary or ranking or commentary that could go along with your report if in order to keep the process as is. I don't know if that's something that you'd want to consider, or the committee.
Yes, we could, if the committee would like and would like to express as an individual that you have preference for one or the other, that we could submit that information to the board. And I would just say, in the essence of time, if we could email that information to Ms. Croce, and then what I can do is as an appendix to the report that's going to the board, and I can make sure that it's noted in the document that there's an appendix with this information, and it can include those statements from the committee members.
Thank you. I would appreciate it.
Board has that information.
I would appreciate
that. Chair Martinez?
And okay, we have lots of hands up. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, and thanks for the suggestion, Ms. Gutierrez. Okay, and so let's, if I could ask everyone to, kind of try to keep their comments as succinct as possible. Ms. Vilma Mendoza.
I just had my hand up because I thought we were voting.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Right. Thank you. Miss Angela Ringline.
I know you just mentioned this appendixes thing, but I still feel, I kind of agree with Ms. Crocker that if we just put two names forward and then say, okay, and if we were to have to forced to say four, because this is our committee and does not sound like people are agreeing with putting forth four names. You're putting our names down and saying you must pick four. But if we ask the whole committee, hey, do you want to pick four or do you want to pick two? Why must we do what we're not wanting to do when this is our committee?
So let's ask, I want to make sure that, that folks are comfortable with what's going forward, right? So everything that's happened, I think to reiterate with what Ms. Garcia stated is everything, all the activities, exercises you've all gone through, these are documents, and this video, if you will be, is available to the board for review. But coming back to the question, because I think at the end of the day, it is your voice that's coming forward. Does everybody agree that you'd like to weigh the first two as primary, secondary, or do you all think that the current points do that already and reflect that? So maybe.
Sorry, I'd just like to remind everyone that this is our recommendation to the board, because they are the ones that have to make that ultimate decision, and they have to weigh all of this information that you have provided for them. All of this is part of that record, so to speak. And so they're going to be weighing all of that in addition to other considerations that might come before them. And so I just wanted to put that out there, that it's really, you're providing them with all of this data and your recommendation on that, but they are making that ultimate decision based on all of that data and your potential recommendations. And I will, I don't know.
So Will, are you all comfortable that with your commentary that will be attached? I'm just now looking, frankly, I'm thinking of Mr. Balon.
Yeah, Mr. Balon.
Hamilton. We're going to go over 8 o'clock right now. So just from a point of just expediency and efficiency, are you comfortable that that the process will capture your primary and secondary if you email those and those are presented to the board? Are you comfortable that we can do that or not? Yes or no? Yep. Seeing 3 heads shaking no.
Who you're asking?
I'm asking everyone because I'm trying to just look at heads, yes or no.
Yeah, so if you send them in, we can include them in the reports.
That would be fine.
For time's sake.
I see 4 and 4 yeses nodding. I see
3
1
no's.
no.
I see
2
3
no's.
no's.
Okay. So I think if we want to go on the majority.
So if everyone, if you have a ranking you'd like to provide or a statement that you'd like to include with that ranking, please email it to Ms. Croce. And it's very short notice, but if you could do that by tomorrow, that would be greatly appreciated because we have to, or I have to, draft the report and make sure that I include all your recommendations. This is what I will be spending my weekend doing so that we can make sure it gets to the board for their board meeting, okay?
Okay. So I'm going to have to cut the conversation short. I'm sorry. We are at 30 minutes to 8 and we still have a good section of the agenda. So at this point, I think I'd like to go back, Ms. Garcia, to the last point where we were in the meeting where we were calling for a motion and a second to approve those top 4 schools that were identified as the recommended 4 to move forward.
Correct, and that's Snow, Graham, Lincoln, and Music.
Excuse me, I apologize for interrupting, but I have a text screenshot and my vote on the screenshot is not correct.
Oh, okay.
So
on the spreadsheet?
Actually, yes. And Ms. Gutierrez, you were going to pull that up anyhow because we needed to remove one of the votes. So
the vote has been removed. Snow is reflective of 10 with the removed vote. Ms. Medina, can you please show me your paper?
It was Graham, Schilling, Snow, Kennedy.
So I have Kennedy, Lincoln, and Music, and Snow. So not Lincoln and Graham, right? Okay, so not Lincoln.
Not Lincoln and not Music. I had
the vote goes for Graham. So I have Graham, Kennedy, no Music. Okay, I apologize. So Kennedy,
Snow, Graham, and Schilling. Those were my 4.
Kennedy, Snow, Schilling. Okay, I apologize for that. If everybody could also take a minute to make sure that your vote is accurate. Chair Martinez, I can't see all the panelists right now, so if you mind just getting a consensus or shake of heads that everything looks appropriate.
Let's see, there we go. Let me try to get gallery view here.
And actually looking at that score, we have a tie for 5.
And I would just, again, this information will be reflected. The spreadsheet will be reflected and provided to the board. And so I can note in the report that there was a tie for Kennedy and Music. And those 2 do have the lowest score of the of the group. All right. So we.
Okay, so I will take the screen down if everything else looks good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So in this case, Ms. Garcia, actually, if you can give me
So,
clarity
yeah.
on the motion.
Yes, so let's come back to this. The motion that Ms. Brianna, that Ms. Garcia is asking for is the to approve the recommended list that, and this is what would move forward to the board. The ask was for 4. With this revised count, it looks like there's a total of 5 because there's 2 that are ranking the same. So that's what would be approved.
And I would put an asterisk by those 2 and note that there was a tie for music and Kennedy.
So I think that being said, Chair Martinez, the motion would be that the recommendation would go to the board for, the recommendation would be for the schools, Graham, Lincoln, and Snow, with a tie low score for, actually, let me rephrase myself. The motion will be for the school, that the School Consolidation Advisory Committee recommend to the board 4 schools, which are Graham, Lincoln, and Snow, with a tie on Kennedy and music.
Correct.
Is that appropriate?
So if we can, if there's a motion and a second.
Okay, if I can get a motion, please. In order to vote no, somebody has to put a motion anyway. So if anybody can, okay, I have a motion from Ms. Padilla. And can I get a second, please? Ms. Shea Marshall seconds. Thank you. If you could please put your Zoom hand down. Thank you. I will be asking right now for a yes vote. If everybody can please raise your Zoom hand if you vote yes. Okay, Ms. Croce, are you ready? I will be reading names. Okay, I will give another 10 seconds. Okay, yes vote for Vilma Mendoza, Janet Crocker, Catherine Ingham Waters, Michelle Padilla, Shea Marshall, Selena Navarez. Again, Mendoza, Crocker, Ingham Waters, Padilla, Marshall, Navarez. Okay, those are yes votes. Miss, if everybody can please put your hand down. At this point, I will be taking no votes. If you vote no, please raise your hand. Okay, 5 more seconds. Ms. Croce, this is a no vote. No vote for Maria Ibarra, Christine Dix, and Veronica Medina. Okay. And at this point, if I have any abstentions, please. 5 more seconds. Okay, they're coming in. Okay. Abstentions, Ms. Croce. I have Angela Ringline, Hamilton Baylon, Rachel Bloom, and Sue Eustace. Again, Ringline, Baylon, Bloom, Eustace. One second so I can tally it up. Okay, here we go. 6 yeses. We have 13 Members, 6 yeses, 3 noes, and 3 abstentions.
I think there were 4.
We're one short.
There were 4.
Let me read them again. I apologize.
Four abstentions.
4 abstentions. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
So, okay, sorry. Ms. Gutierrez, you reviewed the vote? 6 and 3.
6 yeses.
Yeah.
6
Okay,
yeses.
So
3 noes, 4 abstentions.
So the motion carries. And the recommendation move forward to the board. And again, the very important piece is that please, for those of you who want to weigh your votes, we heard that light and clear. You want to make sure that the board gets visibility so please send an email with that information to Ms. Croce by end of day tomorrow.
That would be great. Thank you.
And I would just like to also add that could we also retally the spreadsheet before it goes to the board?
Okay.
Just to make sure. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so Ms. Garcia, we have, it's 7:42.
So yeah, so the idea was to go through the report and see if you had any comments or questions. And unless all of you right now say, no, it's perfect, move on. I think, Mr. Balon, we're gonna have to add a little bit of time to the meeting in order to get through the report and make sure that we capture all of the committee's comments as we walk through here. So if we can get, let's see, it is 7:42. If we can get an additional half an hour so that we have our full 45 minutes for this topic, that would be appreciated. If we could get a motion or a second to extend by half an hour.
Can I please get a motion and a second to extend the meeting? Ms. Padilla moves, Ms. Ibarra seconds.
Thank you, Ms. Croce. I have Ms. Padilla and Ibarra for extension.
And if you can please take a vote, Ms. Gutierrez.
Okay, yes votes, please raise your hand, your Zoom hand. This is just for the extension of the meeting, 30 minutes, right?
Correct.
Okay, I have yes for, ready, Ms. Croce? Okay, Ibarra, Maria Ibarra, Christine Dix, Shay Marshall, Janet Crocker, Catherine Ingham Waters, Veronica Medina, Michelle Padilla, Vilma Mendoza, Rachel Bloom, Selena Navarez.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, my apologies. I need to take a no vote. Sorry, multitasking. I apologize. If everybody can please remove the raised hand, I will be calling for a no vote. Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. No for Mr. Hamilton and Angela Ringline. If you can please put your hands down, and if I have any abstentions. No abstentions. Thank you.
I apologize. I need votes from Miss Sue Eustace. I did not get her vote, and I did not get Miss Vilma Mendoza.
Vilma was a yes.
Mine was a yes. It was a yes.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Ms. Croce. Chair Martinez or Ms. Garcia?
Okay,
So
back to, so Ms. Garcia.
yes. So I'm gonna share my screen so we can walk through the reports and you can let me know if there are any additional comments or edits. I will say from the beginning, it still has to go through the quality control process. So if there was something that was misspelled besides your names, and I apologize for that, or those types of things, those will get fixed. And so what I'm really looking for is any substantive comments or information that you feel that should be incorporated into the reports. And so I did want to note that I did, and I apologize to Miss Ringline and Miss Dix for misspelling your name. So that has been corrected. And Miss Marshall, I did correct the schools for your 2 students as well. So I will scroll down. So I'm going to take this bit by bit. The executive summary really is just going to be a synopsis of the report itself. And so I will adjust the recommendation as we were talking about, as we just voted with regards to those schools, and that you are recommending that these are your top schools for the board to consider, not that you're recommending these schools for closure. The background information, what I was trying to cover here is just so that anybody who's picking up this report, not only the school board, but the general public has a little bit of background on the school district itself, on the reason that this committee was necessary because of the fiscal situation of the district that it finds itself, and the request or the requirement by the county office in order to put together a fiscal plan to correct that. It just provides a summary of when the school board approved the committee, set the committee's charge, who the representatives are supposed to be, and that information here, which was all part of one of the presentations that we provided at the beginning of the report. The next part of this was the summary of committee meetings and just laying out a general how many members of the committee there are, the times that you met, the general of who it was that submitted information or made presentations to the committee, and a link to where the data can be found. And as I noted, the minutes, the agendas, the materials, etc., all of that will be an appendix to this report as well. So it's all in one document. So meeting 1, it was a recap of our organizational meeting and the conversations that were had there. I included some information here about what the criteria was, talked about the vote that was taken at that time. I'm going to use this. Explained how the scoring methodology works and how the score versus the weighted score worked, so that that information is there and it's clear for the committee. And again, those who are reading the report. Does anybody have any comments or questions on that first meeting summary? Okay, I don't see any. So for meeting number 2, this was clarifying the conversation we had about the vice chair and chair. We retook the vote on the criteria, and that's reflected there. And then we looked at a presentation by Mr. Ken Reynolds for Schoolworks. And what I tried to do for each one of these where there was information that was shared with the committee was try to capture the salient information that was provided by the presenter at that given event. And so I included not only some narrative, but also included some of the tables and information that was presented. So again, somebody who is reading this document, while all of the data will be attached, they could get the salient points and information just by reading the report itself. And so it includes those projections. talks about the census data and the birth rates, the UPP, etc. And then I moved on and started talking about the criteria and the votes that were actually taken. And so each one of these meeting dates reflects the votes that were taken, the relevant data that went along, or that not the votes, the criteria and how those were scored for each one of those. And I have a note here that, again, the appendix will include that full scoring matrix that all of you have seen that is going to have the total scores. So are there any comments or questions on meeting number 2? Okay. Are you raising your hand, Ms. Ibarra? Yes.
Yes, I was actually raised since the first.
I'm sorry, it's hard for me to
And
look over
Christine
here.
Dix has her hand up too. It was just kind of a question, just it's kind of going fast, where it said the committee charge. Is there anything there? I remember something about from the very beginning saying it was 2 schools that were going to be recommended. Is that in there worded specifically, or is that something, did I miss that?
See, I don't believe it very specifically said. Whoop.
Excuse me, Ms. Garcia?
Yes.
There was no number. So if you look at the committee, it's like number 8 or 9. Keep going.
So it just identify schools for potential.
Didn't have a number.
Yeah. And the notion of 2 came up, Ms. Ibarra, because of the total amount, because we knew it had to be $1 million. And the estimates from the district from Ms. De La Cruz were that they were approximately $500 each, $500,000 each.
So,
Ms. Garcia, I apologize for interrupting. I just want to get a consensus of, an idea of the time. You are reviewing the report at this time, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I do apologize for the interruption, and I had to go back and look at our parliamentary rules, and I think we might have to take another vote. If you give me a minute so I can explain this. In this situation, we have a 13-member committee, and we have a 6 yes vote. There needs to be a special rule or agreement from the committee to just take the number of yeses. Otherwise, if no rules are made, then we need a simple majority. In this case, a simple majority would be 7. So it seems like we have to do a recount or a revote.
I've had my hand raised. Can I quick pipe in? It's regarding the same thing. If we're going to take a revote, might we possibly just take a vote of the top 2 schools of our choice so we can have that in as well? I know we want to be respectful of people's time, but I think it's really important that we have this weighted properly. And even if we add in emails at the end as an extension to the report, I'm just afraid it's not going to be viewed as closely as that chart that's there, so easily viewed, you know? And I just want to make sure, because we're representing our community, we want to make sure that this is going through loud and clear. These are the top 2 schools that we want to recommend. And I don't want my 3rd and 4th schools to get bumped up just because they were somebody else's 3rd and 4th schools also. I think there's a big
Sorry, I'm going to step in here. Ms. Garcia, I think that's fine. I think that, with the overall initial charge of the 4 schools, that'll, the intent, what I'm understanding is the board will see a broader scope, if you will, in the spirit of, but I think there should be clarity, Ms. Dix. Thank you for that suggestion. The clarity should be that the recommendation still, and I think Ms. Garcia, that was your point earlier, would still be for the 4 schools to be those 4 names. But in this second vote, basically you'll get a ranking for the top 2, in essence, right? Is that fair?
Chair Martinez, if I may, for the sake of doing this as easy as possible, it almost seems like the easier option would be to do a double count. So that way these 4 stay. If everybody's okay with that, they won't change. Then we can do another page where it's only 2, they only pick 2 schools.
Right.
Okay,
I think you're saying the same thing.
okay, that way, no, I just, otherwise you'd have to recount, renumber the 4 schools and that would,
No, right,
Is that-
so just the top 2 is is that what you were saying? I'm sorry, yeah, right? Mhm.
Yes, this would be an additional count. So and another additional page of data for us to review. Thank you.
okay. So in this case, Ms. Croce, if you could copy and paste the same table on another tab, and it would only have a total of 2 votes per person.
Yes,
Okay,
I'm ready. I am ready for that. if
Perfect.
you-
And as a matter of process, we will then, there will be 2 motions on 2 votes. We will have to do another vote on the current standing table of 4 schools. And then once we take that vote, then we do another vote on the top 2 schools that each committee member selected. Is that okay? Ms. Garcia, chairs?
Yeah.
Okay, so, Ms. Chair, I have a hand. Okay, is it all down? Thank you very much. Okay. At this point, I will be putting up the chart again, so we know what we are voting on. 1 second. Okay. Okay.
Well, I did, right, so we were looking at Snow, Graham, Lincoln, and then Music and Kennedy at a tie.
That is correct. I just want to make sure. Okay, so that being said, sorry, I apologize. I do have a bunch of windows here. So it would be I'm calling the motion again. The motion is for, the recommendation is that this committee recommend.
Sorry, I'm sorry, we're not there at a motion yet. Okay, did I miss the vote?
No, we have not done the vote.
Okay, we
No,
have to do the vote, so we have to do the vote first. Because
No,
that's what-
President Martinez, I'm repeating the exact same motion and revoting on the exact same motion that was voted upon.
But before you vote on the motion, you need, I think what the committee is asking for is that their votes are ranked, right?
I know, so I was gonna do the 5 right now, which is just a revote, and then do another one where they select two, so we can just take it one piece at a time.
We've already done the 5.
Oh, we've already voted on that. That's the one
Okay,
that
so you just
failed.
wanna do one
So let's just do
entire,
the one, yeah.
one
So
motion.
Let's do the vote. Let's
get
do
it.
the vote. Yeah. mhm.
Okay, one motion.
That's
Okay, so
it.
then,
Thank you.
so then if everybody at this point is writing down your 2 schools. I understood. So one vote. Ms. Padilla, okay, thank you. Okay. If everybody is ready with your 2 schools, please show it on the screen. Okay. Ms. Croce, I will start with Janet Crocker, and I have Janet Crocker is Music and Graham.
Correct.
Okay. Next is Michelle Padilla. Michelle Padilla is Graham and Music. Maria Ibarra is Kennedy and Graham. Vilma Mendoza, if you need to slow me down at any time, let me know. But so Vilma Mendoza is Snow and Music. Angela Ringline is Snow and Music. Hamilton Bailon is Graham and Music. Christine Diggs is Snow and Schilling. Shay Marshall is Graham and Lincoln. Veronica Medina is Graham and Schilling. Do you need me to slow down?
So Veronica Medina, I already have a vote. Was that Vilma Mendoza?
Sorry, so
Previous-
Veronica Medina, I have Graham and Schilling,
Thank you.
and Vilma is Snow and Music. Okay, and then Catherine is Graham and Lincoln. And Rachel Bloom, I see Snow and Graham, is that correct? Snow and Graham for Ms. Bloom, and Ms. Selena Navarez. I have Kennedy and Lincoln. And Ms. Sue Eustace, I have Graham and Lincoln. Did you get Ms. Ibarra's? Everybody?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Okay.
please put the spreadsheet up and so everyone can double check.
1 second. Okay, everybody can see the screen? If
Let's
any,
sorry, yeah, let's get a confirmation from everybody that their vote is in fact their vote.
Correct.
Can you reduce the view? Because I can't see the schools.
reduce this.
Zoom out so you fit more on the screen.
Most of us could see it, so maybe, yeah, you need to slide your screen over. Can you see it now?
Okay.
Okay.
So if anybody is, if this is not accurate, please say so right now, if it's not accurate.
Okay. So, so based on this new count, if you could just wanted to leave that up again really quickly. I think it was Graham and.
Sorry. Okay. So I have.
So Graham and.
Music.
Music would be the highest ranked. The remaining, I just wanted to clarify once again, that previous list, right? These are now basically the rankings, right? If you think about those 4 plus or 3 plus 2 tied for the 4th, these would be the rankings now, correct? Okay. And so that would be the motion that's brought forward. The initial list of 3 plus the 2 tied, but now it would be ranked Kennedy and Music as the 2 top score getters. I think that's what the committee wanted to make sure that the board saw.
What?
Just clarity, Chair, it's Graham and Music.
I'm sorry, Graham and Music.
Okay, thank you.
I'm so sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so if we can then recall the previous motion failed, so this is the new motion once again. That previous list with Graham and Music being the highest vote getters. If you can please provide a motion and a second, please.
Ms.
Crocker.
Have a motion. A second.
Ms. Padilla seconds. Thank you. If you can go ahead and call the vote, Ms. Gutierrez.
Yes, for this recommendation, please raise your Zoom hand. I will take 5 more seconds.
Seriously?
Okay. Ms. Croce, I have a yes for Janet Crocker, Shay Marshall, Michelle Padilla, Hamilton Balon, Maria Ibarra, Christine Dix, Catherine Ingram Waters, Vilma Mendoza, and Sue Eustace. That is 9 yeses. Okay, thank you. If the hands can please go down. And if I can get a no vote. Sorry, Ms. Eustace. Okay, thank you. If I can get a no vote. Okay. No for Angela Ringline, Selene Navarez, and Veronica Medina. That's 3 no's. Hands down. Any abstentions, please? I have 1 abstention from Rachel Bloom. Thank you. Okay, Chair.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez, for calling out the correction. And I think at the end of the day, this did help with some of the concern that the committee members had anyhow. So I'm glad we corrected that. Appreciate that. So with that, Ms. Garcia, coming back to the review of the report. And we do have 24 minutes, just as a reminder.
So I think we made it through meeting 1. And I don't recall, I think I asked if anybody had any questions on meeting 2 or anything that needed to be added. Don't see. Meeting 3, again, this is a recurring theme. It's just trying to capture what happened at that meeting, the salient pieces of data that were presented as part of the report, in addition to them being attached as part of the appendix. And then we looked at each one of the criteria. And again, it includes information with regarding to the criteria, what the data was that was utilized, what the score was, and what the weighted score for each one of the criteria that we went over that evening. Do I have any questions or comments on the 3rd meeting? Okay.
There's a raised hand from Ms. Medina.
I was just wondering if there could be a note about the, how preschool is never figured into the numbers, if that could be noted somewhere, like an asterisk or something.
Yeah, I think for right now, I'm gonna write it right here just so I don't forget. Ooh.
Okay, thank you.
So I will make sure that's captured. Thank you, Ms. Medina.
They're not.
Did I write, what did I, oh,
No.
ha, thank you. Meeting 4, Mr. Reynolds presented on the facilities and the facilities master plan. I included the cost for the 3 groupings plus the 5 years. So this was the information that was utilized in order to come up with the criteria to use to rank the criteria. And so that's reflected here. Those and these were the encumbered costs that were also looked at for criteria 6. And so those are noted there. The unique facilities and the score for each one of those, the support spaces and the ones that didn't have sufficient support spaces, and then the environmental factors, which was just Birch Grove Primary for Hetchy. Do I have any questions or comments on the data for meeting 4? Okay. Meeting 5 was the meeting that we looked at 2 different things. Superintendent Triplett provided information on the student services and the academic and educational services side of the house. And so I included just the summary sheet of the California School Dashboard rankings or criteria. the conversation about the unique programs that are at the school sites, etc. We also had Ms. Dela Cruz that presented on the financials. And so I included all of the tables and the subsequent information that Ms. Dela Cruz provided. And so we had the cost by school site, the net savings and how that was broken down, and then the categories that were under each one of those programs, and the information regarding the safety concerns and the fact that the committee looked and added some additional safety concerns and conversations. So we looked at criteria 5 that evening that shows the cost there. We looked at the district-wide programs and whether or not they needed to be relocated and if they could be relocated. So those scores are there, and those safety concerns for the safe routes to school for students, and then the net savings and what those scores, et cetera, were there. I included the score from, or the amount for McGregor, since we had that conversation, but there wasn't a score attached to that as we discussed. And then I noted that we sent you an email or that you had a request to add the information to the scoring matrix of the capacity without the portable buildings. And so that note was there. Any questions on that? Yes, Ms. Ibarra.
Can we add something, just a small sentence or something, noting the 4 schools that have the SEAL program, just as part of the board's information to look at?
Yep, I thought I captured it, but I will make myself a note. Okay. The 6th meeting was the last meeting that we had where we looked at the recommendations for potential addition of criteria based on the information that was provided by the committee. There is a figure that lays all of that out, and I will scroll through that, but these were the recommended items that we considered. And I've noted the ones where the committee either voted not to make a change, or in the case of adding the per student cost, there was no, the motion was not voted upon. Here's that spreadsheet that I shared with you at the last meeting when we discussed it. And so I've included that in there again for the board's information. Those were all the ideas that were generated. And then we moved on to the other considerations. We looked at consolidating Birch Grove Primary and Birch Grove Intermediate, and it reflects that there was no recommendation made. The recommendation was not to, no motion was made, and so there was no recommendation that will be made to the board, and so that is clear for the board there to note. We moved moving grade 6 to the junior high school and creating additional schools, or excuse me, creating a middle school. There was a vote and the committee recommended to include that. I added, since I sent you the draft, for information purposes, so that information again is handy. It just showed the enrollment projection by summary grade, because it shows what the 6th graders, what their the enrollment is and is projected to be, so that as they're thinking about potentially consolidating those students or moving them onto the middle school campus or a middle school campus, they would know what those total number of students are. And this was presented to you by Mr. Ken Reynolds. And then we also looked at the closure of McGregor, and there was no motion made to move that forward. And so again, there's no recommendation that's being provided to the board, but they have the information about the committee having that conversation. Any comments or questions there?
Would you go back to
Yes.
where your red was?
Where my red was. Oh,
there was a lot of red that was there. Before that, what did you have down that we voted to recommend to the board?
This one was that the vote to recommend to consider moving all 6th grade students to NJS and form a middle school campus.
And we were saying that we had no recommendation on that.
No, this one you voted, and so it is to recommend that they do that. The 2 that you actually didn't vote on were consolidating BGP and BGI we had conversation about it, and there was actually no motion to recommend consolidation. So that one had actually no votes. And then there was no motion and no recommendation to close McGregor and move those students. So that one shows that there was no recommendation.
Right. I thought that our vote was the fact that we would suggest that the board needs to address this, but it's not, we had no recommendation as to whether it should be done or not.
For McGregor?
Go back up and
Junior high.
The wording is
that the committee voted to recommend the board consider moving all grade.
Not recommend moving all grade students, but we recommended that the board address it. That was my memory of the vote.
Okay, I will.
Feeling about whether the board should do that, but rather it's something they need to address.
Okay, I will go back and listen to that portion of the meeting and make sure that I have that captured properly.
Thank you.
Meeting 7, there's nothing there, and so I will do as I did with all the other ones. I will provide a synopsis of what was presented this evening, what the conversation was, what the ultimate votes were, as I did with the others moving forward, with the others in the past. Then the report will include an appendix for all of the meeting agendas, minutes, and materials. There's an appendix for the scoring matrix. I will likely put in, I will put in the spreadsheet from the vote for today that'll show the ranking, etc., and describe that. So that'll be in there. And then if any of you do submit to Ms. Croce by tomorrow evening, any other information that you wanted to provide, even though we did already capture the 1 or 2, please feel free to go ahead and send anything else to Ms. Croce, and I can add an appendix C that will include those committee statements in there as well, so that you, or your individual statements as part of that draft report. So do I have any questions? Is there anything else that you feel needs to be included before we look at voting to provide delegated authority? Okay, I don't see any hands or anything. So what I am asking is for, let me close this just so we can all see one another, is for delegated authority to make those edits that you have noted, to finish writing up this section of meeting number 7, and to put that draft together so that we have a final report to provide to the Board of Education for their meeting on November 5th.
Garcia, is this a formal vote?
Yes, I need a formal. This should be item
H.
Thank you. I was like, I don't have item H. So it's to get delegated approval to edit them, make the edits in the draft, and finalize it to provide it to the Board of Education.
Ms. Crocker, is that a motion from you?
No, I just want to make sure that we get a copy of this before the board meeting. Is that something that's in your time schedule?
Yes, so as I mentioned before, this will be my weekend. On Monday morning, the staff in my office will put it through our quality control process to make sure everything's grammatically correct and spelled accurately. And then a copy will be provided to the district, and they can, and Ms. Croce can distribute that to the committee. Excuse me?
You will have it before the board meeting then?
Yes, it does need to be posted on Monday because the board meeting is on Thursday. So you'll be getting it in the afternoon, and we will make sure that you get it as the committee, and it will also be then be posted as part of the agenda.
Then I would like to move acceptance of your document. Recommendations.
Thank you, Ms. Crocker.
I second. Catherine.
Thank you. I have a motion from Ms. Crocker and second from Catherine Ingram Waters. At this point, I will be requesting the yes votes, please. Ms. Croce, I will be calling out the yes votes. That is yes for Michelle Padilla, Maria Ibarra, Shay, sorry, I'll slow down. Shay Marshall, Hamilton Balon, Janet Crocker, Catherine Ingham Waters, Vilma Mendoza, Catherine Dix, and Selena Navarez.
Christine Dick.
That was Christine.
Sorry, did I change your name? I apologize.
Yeah, you gave her Catherine's name.
I apologize.
It's a good name, but needs to be right.
And please add Veronica Medina. Thank you, Ms. Croce. If you could please put the hands down, I will be asking for a no vote. Ms. Padilla? Okay. Okay, no, I have Rachel Bloom, Angela Ringline, Sue Eustace. Thank you. Hands down. And at this point, are there any abstentions? Seeing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Motion carried with a total of 9 yeses and 3 nos and 0 abstentions, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
9 and 3. We're missing one then because there should be 13.
It's 10 yeses.
10 and 3. 10 and 3.
Okay.
That was just me miscoding it. Sorry about that. Okay. So, Ms. Garcia, do you want to talk a little bit about, we have about 8 minutes here to talk about next steps.
So as I mentioned, I will draft the reports. It'll be provided to the district. We'll make sure to distribute it to you, and it will be posted on the agenda for the board. The agenda is going to be posted on Monday afternoon because the meeting is on Thursday evening. And at that time, I will be making a presentation to the board, similar to what we went through with you, just kind of walking them through a little bit of background, which they know, but because the public will be watching, taking them through the meetings that we held, the information that was provided, and the ultimate recommendations that the committee set forth. And so obviously all of you are welcome to attend that board meeting on Thursday evening. And I do want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your time, for your effort, your consideration. I know it wasn't easy, and I know this is a very difficult decision, even if it's just a recommendation and you're not the ones that are stating which school is going to close. And so I appreciate all of your time and effort and being part of all of this. And just a reminder, if you have anything you want to add, please get it to Ms. Croce by tomorrow at the end of the day.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. If there are no further questions for Ms. Garcia, I would ask for a motion and a second to adjourn.
I have a motion from Christine.
I'm sorry, I have a question from Ms. Dix.
A motion to close.
Oh, sorry, your motion. Thank you.
Motion from Christine Dix and a second.
From Ms. Marshall.
Second from Ms. Shay Marshall. If I can please get a yes to adjournment. Okay. And I will be going down the list. Thank you for waiting. Veronica Medina, Rachel Bloom, Sue Eustace, Maria Ibarra, Hamilton Balon, Christine Dix, Catherine Ingham Waters, Shay Marshall, Michelle Padilla, Angela Ringline, Janet Crocker, Vilma Mendoza, Selena Navarez. Hands down.
Okay, thank you. So the motion carries, and with that, meeting is adjourned at 8:25 p.m. Thank you so much for your participation, and have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.